Hi, this is Kevin with Let Me Tech You, and in today's video, I'm going to be going over EVE-NG in GNS3 and how this can make you a better network engineer. You can do a lot of other things as far as even programming, such as using like Ansible, Terraform, various other automation tools, PowerShell, depending on how you set it up. But if you're in the networking world, you've probably heard of GNS3. And EVE-NG is a great platform if you want to just get something up and running real quick and be able to utilize the web browser for your console. So I'm going to go in and kind of start talking about this a little bit. So if you haven't heard of EVE-NG, you can go over to eve-ng.net. And in there, you'll get a full rundown of the environment and how it works. So let me just kind of break down a little bit. So they have a free version and then a professional version. And let me go to the comparison. So they have, let me see here. Thought maybe they had a breakdown of what the differences were. They might have changed it up a little bit, but let me see if they throw it on this page here. So it doesn't look like they show much. So basically, let me just give you the biggest differences. So whenever you're using EVE-NG and you're using only the community free version, some of the things you can't do is have multiple people log in at the same time. So you only get one access to one actual live login. So if you try to log in again on another computer, it's going to log one of the users out. And I can kind of show you that here with my instance. So if I go to my server and I log in here, and let's just go HTML5 console. I can then, if I open up an incognito browser and go to this here as well, and try to log in. As you can see, if I go back to my other instance, session's timed out. So they do that to prevent people from trying to utilize multiple sessions without paying for the professional version. Another caveat to EVE-NG, if I go back to my login here, is being able to edit interfaces when these when your nodes are running. So let's say I want to remove this interface here. If I can get to it here, delete. Okay, so as you can see, I can actually, change these now how they are, add to a different interface. But if I power one of these up and I try to then add an interface to this here, it doesn't let you. It just stays like that. So I'll just refresh it and it goes away. So that's one thing. So the only thing with that will be if you have some configuration that you change, you'll just need to save it. And then you'll need to come here, power it off. And then you'll be able to make those connections there. So let me go into just kind of the breakdown. So I utilize EVE-NG on VMware. And what I do, I have my 10. Let me just log in here. So I'm using VMware. So I have a home server that I use. And once I log in, I have a virtual machine that's basically utilizing just a Linux instance. And let me see if I can bring this up. So as you can see, it's Ubuntu 16.04. And on their download page, if you go back to EVE-NG under their download here, see you have the free community edition, professional, the Windows client side, which allows you to do things like packet tracer, stuff like that. So that's what you'll need to download if you want to do utilize things like wireshark, putty, ultra VNC, things like that. So going down here, you have an ISO image and then OVF file. The OVF file allows you to essentially take that and build your VMware environment directly from this image that you download. This ISO file allows you to essentially mount it to a Linux instance or whatever, or any VMware that you create, and then from there you can install it over top of whatever you're gonna set up. So it basically is already built in for you there. So that's if you're it's trying to like study for your ccna, ccnp, that's what I would recommend there. And then when you get into the documentation, it's going to tell you a little bit about different images, supported images. And with these images, there's going to be various ways on how you can actually add these to your EV&G environment. So if we go to, let's see here, sometimes they have, I believe it's under the how-to. There we go. So you see all these different how-tos. Say you want to add a Palo Alto in here. It's going to tell you the type of file, and then you can basically walk through the instructions on how to set this up. So basically, you're just going to need to have a little bit of Linux knowledge of how to, like, say, SSH into your instance, or use a tool like FileZilla to copy over the files that you'll need to run these. So these files you will need to get yourself, just like any other emulation software, whether you're using GNS3. You can get these usually through means of like your provider, as far as like if you deal with like Cisco, maybe through your job, maybe if you know someone who can share them, not necessarily like in a legal way, but more so like, if maybe you're in a group of people who can go in and purchase the images themselves. So the images that I'm going to go in and start kind of just showing you some of the cool features of EV&G in my environment. So I utilize this for a lot of things as far as labs, anything from like Cisco, Windows, Linux, Docker. I've done some stuff with Ansible tied into this. I can even connect it into my local environment. And there's a bunch of tutorials on how to do that as well. So let me reset this so it's a little bigger. So I'm going to hit HTML5 console. So I'm going to go ahead and close this lab. So when you start EV&G, you're going to have this file manager. You can create folders and things like that. I usually just typically keep a lot of my stuff inside the this main folder here, and these are just basically different little labs. So I got like a site-to-site VPN lab. It's a little jumpy. All right, yeah. So you see, I got a site-to-site VPN lab, spanning tree, a Windows Server lab, BGP, high availability site-to-site, all types of stuff. If I go a folder back, I have some imported labs that I've imported from various other people who might have built, labs that I got from online. So what I'm going to do is go back to my customs lab, and I'm going to just open up one of these. So I'm going to go ahead and go down here and hit open. And from here, actually, do I want to utilize this one? Yeah, so sure. I'll utilize this one here. I just actually did a lab. I think I used this one here. So what I usually do is I kind of like starting with a fresh slate. So let me just close this lab, and I'll show you how it says it's running, because this one here, I'm actually going to delete that, because I'm going to hit yes, and then let's close the lab here. Let me zoom out here. Something's still running, and we need to figure out what it is here. Here, okay. Let's just delete that one as well too. Stop. Let's kind of zoom in a little bit. So let's try to go over there and get that. This the other thing with EV&G. Sometimes the ratio of how things kind of span across on the screen can get kind of skewed. So I'm just going to delete this here. Got too much stuff on this lab anyway. So let me try to refresh this and see if that got taken out. So sometimes I run into that where like a instance doesn't want to, like it was running for some reason when I started, which it shouldn't be. So let me close this lab down. I'm going to add a new one. So here there's an add new lab. It's going to call it, test lab version 1. You can put description and stuff, but I really don't. So you're going to get like a blank slate like this. And then I'm going to hit add object, and you got node, network. You can do pictures. So like if you want to overlay like a network map or something over there, if you're doing like a trial or a proof of concept for a customer or just for yourself, maybe your house layout or something. So these are all the different images that I have. Cisco ASA, ASAV, 800, Cisco IOL. Got some other stuff down here. Palo Alto, virtual PCs, which comes with EV&G. I think I got Windows Server. I got Linux somewhere in there, Linux here. So, I could actually, I could throw a Windows Server in there. So basically it then takes you to your settings. So a lot of this stuff you won't need to change. Your image will be what you have. So you could have, say, 2016, 2019, 2022. You'll need to upload this using the documentation on EV&G's website. So you can kind of add some additional RAM, stuff like that, how many Ethernet ports that you want, and then you could save it. And then there's our Windows Server. So then I want to add another switch. So I'm going to add a switch to our network. So I'm going to do Cisco VIOS switch. So I got a switch here. It's a layer 3 switch. So then I'm going to stick this here. Then now from the switch, I'm going to do a firewall. So Cisco ASAV. And then save. So now I got so from here, so from my switch to my inside interface, there's going to be 0, 1. And then from my server, I'm going to go Ethernet 0 to gigabit 0, 1. Save. And then that's how you start to build out your network. And basically from there, you can actually then drag, select all, and hit start selected. And then as these start to come up, the great thing about EV&G is that you can double click these and they'll actually just start right in the browser. So as you can see, got my switch, and you'll probably see the config start rolling down on that one, and then the ASA. So pretty simple. So now I can actually configure these like I'm actually utilizing real gear, which is great. Cost effective. Don't have to worry about humming sounds sitting in your background when you're trying to study, things like that. So now that we got those out of the way, now you can utilize, so the Windows client package that we saw on EV&G's website is what you're going to be need. So if you want to do like packet analysis, I could essentially, let me hit that in there. I could right click this interface or right click this, go capture. I want to capture traffic on 0, 1. So now it's going to open up my wireshark. And now I'm going to be able to see packets coming across on my device here. So you see some spanning tree, things like that. So nice little way to easily get some practice identifying packets and the different types of protocols and things like that as you're troubleshooting your network and building it out. So to close it out, we just close out of that and then come back here. So after that, you got like things like you can, you got like some startups, some networks here. When you start configuring those, your nodes, let me come here. Startup configs. As you start to save these, you can save your startup configs in here. Well, I don't have anything since we just set those up. We can actually even set this up to connect into my internet, my local internet. So say I want to actually pull real Windows updates from here, or I want to actually access this ASDM from my local PC. There's a add object and you want to add a network. And you're going to have to actually set this up to work, to bridge across your EV&G environment. So you get this little cloud and you basically stick it wherever you want. But, you know, since we have the free edition, we'll have to turn this off. But I can essentially then configure this with like a real IP address on my DHCP scope or my network. And I could utilize tools like PuTTY and things like that to actually configure this without having to do it through the browser and stuff like that. So a nice little tool there. You can actually, I have on my, clear it out of here. On my blog here, there's an actual tip on how to set that up. And I just want to make sure, if you haven't seen my blog, you go to letmetechyou.com, and I have a bunch of tutorials on how I utilize this here. So I believe if you go to, it might be the second page currently now, if you're watching this as of 2022, I'm sure I'll have more stuff here, but I actually did a tutorial on how to connect this up to your local network. So if I can't find it, I'll share it in the video comments below. But basically, yeah, just, you know, a way to kind of get that going so you don't have to utilize different tabs and stuff up there at the top. So outside of that, that's really it. The main thing is really getting your images and then being able to configure these how you want. So as you can see, same commands, show IP interface brief, you know, COMT, everything, you know, exit, show, run, all your shows, CDP, neighbors, stuff like that. So now going over to GNS3, I don't actually have and as you can see, this is our Windows instance. So if I go to GNS3, so this is widely used as well and utilized by a lot of administrators. You know, they have a great community, a marketplace for various other appliances, different labs. So it's very clean. A lot of people use it. So if you utilize it and you have questions, there's lots of forums and things like that that you could sign up for and get some questions and answers to. And then you probably can even, you know, find a lot of labs like you see here for the various different things that people do, since EV&G or GNS3 is so popular. So the only thing I would say is GNS3 is probably more popular as far as usability goes, but EV&G.net is, I feel, is a more user friendly, just because it's easier to kind of get up and going. There's some caveats to the GNS3, but maybe they fixed a lot of that. You know, it's kind of hard to really say. I will probably try and spin up a instance of this, but I haven't done it in such a long time, and I'm sure they've made strides. But when I was recently setting it up, probably I'd say a couple of years ago, it was just kind of cumbersome on how some of the different systems work in regards to what I was needing done. EV&G was just really simple. So, you know, if I was to lean, I would say I'm more 80% EV&G, 20% GNS3. And the 20% is only because I would try it again if I was in an environment or a business that kind of utilized it already. So other than that, if you have any questions in regards to how any of this stuff works, I know there's probably more I could go into as far as like adding images and setting things up as far as different types of topologies. But this is kind of just gives you kind of an easy overview of how this setup is on a home network, and the things you can learn when you're trying to study for your CCNA, ccnp, CCIE, and stuff like that. It's endless amounts of possibilities on what you could build without needing physical gear. So again, check out my channel, my blog on the different stuff that I have going on utilizing this. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below and I'll try to get back with you. Again, thanks for tuning in and hope to see you next time.